Hello there, my name is Valerie White-Williams and I would like to welcome you to my channel, Cosmic Splendor. And this is the channel I get to indulge my passion with spirituality, clairvoyance, training skills, and astrology. So today I'm going to talk about the house positions. The house positions is one of my very favorite things about astrology. I think it makes a whole lot more sense than just sun sign astrology. Sun sign astrology is what I call dumbed down astrology. It's simple, it's easy, but it doesn't always apply to everybody depending on the combination of your chart, because your astrology chart is like a blueprint that you came into this planet telling you where you're going to focus your life. So the original wheel is basically based on the 12 astrology signs. And the way I look at the astrology wheel and the house positions, it's like a set in a movie or a play. So you might have a set where the actors are in a library. You might have a set where they're out in nature. You might have another set where they're in the boardroom, right? So the house positions actually speak to those things, but they are more spiritual than you might be aware of. So first of all, the astrology wheel corresponds with the 12 astrology signs. So there is some relationship between them. For example, Aries is the first sign, and the first house has an Aries connotation, but it's certainly not like everybody that has sun in the first house is going to act like an Aries. It doesn't quite work that way, because they all have a different sort of quality that is really dependent on the signs in there, as well as the planets that are there, the actors there. But there's still the scene. The scene is the same. It might just be decorated a little differently. So the other thing to look about an astrology chart when you look at the house positions is you want to look at where all the planets typically are sharing that wheel. So when you look at the astrology wheel, you can look at it in a holistic way, which I think is the best way to start looking at your chart, is looking at where all the planets kind of are hanging out, like they're having a party or they're all over the place. So you can kind of look at those planets by looking at the horizon and the right and left grid. So the horizon is your rising sign. So when you were born, where that sets your rising sign, so that's the horizon. So if you were born right after the sun rose, you're going to have your sun in the 12th house. If you were born before the sun rose, it's going to be in the first house. And then all the planets are going to stack up around there. So the first thing we're going to look at with the astrology chart is we have that horizon. So everything below the horizon, 1st through 6th house, are called the personal houses, meaning the activities are your personal life and the people you relate to. It's kind of just your friends and family, how you work, things like that. Above the horizon is the society house. So you're interacting more as a teacher, helping others. You know, it's beyond your initial community, your people, but serving others in a greater way. Okay, and then we can look at the right and left quadrants. Now I'm in a mirror, so you can't see. So when I say the right, you see the left. Just know that. So all the planets on the right, so we're talking about the lower quadrant, upper quadrant, those are social. So you're really interacting with people. So if it's in the lower quadrant, it's just basically your work life, your creativity, your family. But as you go over the horizon, you're looking at more teaching, working with other people, managing resources, things like that. You're still working with other people. And then on the left side, which is opposite of what I'm showing you, is more of an internal focus. So likewise, that first quadrant, first, second, and third house, it's more about your personal development. You might be an extroverted person. You might be Aries and be really kind of a high energy person, but how it's focused is from an inner developed place. And likewise, the last quadrant, which is 10, 11, 12 houses, those are more about serving society and being involved in society, but you're not in an active service, but in allowing your gifts to be shared that way. So that's basically it. So each quadrant has its own flavor, and when you look at where all those planets are hanging out, you can kind of get an idea of what you're here to do in life, because that's what astrology is. It's a way to show and know the blueprint of your life. And so when you coordinate with that, it really helps you align. Now, me personally, my chart is really extreme. So I think that's why I was attracted to astrology from the beginning. I actually have 5 placements in Gemini, and I have 4 placements in Virgo, and then splattering of other things. So there's a lot of intensity in all those places. We call those stelliums. We have multiple planets in that area. So now I'm going to get into 5 minutes in to exactly what each house position represents. So house position number 1 is, after the rising sign, it's in the first house. And the first house is related to Aries, but maybe not the energy of Aries, but the newness of Aries. It's new. So the first house corresponds to I am. I'm here. It's here. This is me. Okay, so any planet that's in that first house presents itself on the surface. It's just, they can't hide it. It's there. So if it's the sun on the house, their personality feels very vulnerable. So many people that have planets, especially the sun, because the sun is what you are learning to do, it feels very vulnerable, and they feel a little bit shy of stepping out and allowing their true self to be seen. But that is what they're here to do, is be comfortable with themselves. So a lot of sun in the first house people are interested in mental health and ways that they can actually allow it's okay to be who they are. Because as you know, in our culture, we're all taught to do different things and be like others in school. And so to be yourself is one of the hardest lessons to learn. So again, if the moon is there, the emotional response might be there. There might be that mother goddess wisdom, this reflective quality. I've noticed a lot of celebrities tend to have moon in the first house because people are attracted to that moon, that security. If it's Mercury, their mental processes are going to be there. They're going to show up there. Now, again, the people who have all these planets in the first house, sometimes it's overwhelming because everything is seen, everything is there. And so they have to kind of work on their self-acceptance of allowing themselves to have all that energy in that first house and allowing people to see it, because they can't really hide it. It's really about building their self-identity of who they are as a person in this life, right? Okay, so let's go on the second house. So after we have I am, we have, corresponds to Taurus, second house, it's I have. Now, typically I have a body, because remember, we are spiritual beings that have a body. So like here, I'm here in this reality, boom, I have this body, and it's like a baby body. It can't do anything, so that's what the second house is your physical reality. So it deals with your body, it deals with building finances, building a home, the structure of the home, the structures. So Taurus is fixed earth, so it's very fixed. And so the second house has that fixed quality. So if your sun is there, you are going to be building your empires, or you're going to build your business, or really work hard on your body and get it, bodybuilder, all these types of things. And of course, other things as well, like say there's moon in the second house. The people with the moon in the second house, that's what they have. That's their extra energy that they have from past lives, or that's easy for them. So people with moon in the second house are probably going to find money's very quickly able to come to them. And when they tune into their inner knowing, it comes quickly. And if say Mercury, I'm not going to go through everything, it's too long, but so say Mercury in the second house, then you're going to be really focused on building wealth, using your intellect to build wealth or build businesses or structures. And again, it determines the sign. So if you're say Capricorn, you might be working more in real estate or industry, but if you're a Pisces, you might use the arts to build. So that's kind of how the signs get into the planets. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the third house, which is still in that first quadrant. The third house corresponds to Gemini, and Gemini is mutable air, and so it has to do with communication. So yeah, I'm here, I have a body, and hey, it looks like there's other people with me. So that's kind of what the third house is working together with your relationships. And more than that, it's more communicating your truth. Because really that's what Gemini is. It's knowing your thoughts and communicating them. So it can relate to siblings or small travel, kind of we call small talk perhaps. But again, it depends on the quality of the signs, you know. Whether it's Leo might be talking about performing and doing fun stuff, where if you're a Virgo in the third house, you might be a little bit more persnickety and using that quality to still communicate, but in a very precise way. So that's about that communication, and it's all about that self-identity, what I have, what I am, and now there's other people around me. So I think and I communicate. So that's the third house. And now let's go across the line. So the very bottom of that turning point between the third house and the fourth house, we're going over to the more personal or the more social. We're still in the personal part, but we're going into the social part. And so the fourth house corresponds to Cancer. And Cancer is cardinal water. And Cancer is like the sign of the mother and nurturing qualities and protecting and taking initiative to protect. And Cancer is also a sign that is really about building wealth too, taking action to build this protective environment for your family. So the fourth house is I feel, I have emotions. I want to feel safe. So it's really about feeling safe and secure in this reality. And so, of course, and you were interacting with other people. So we're in that social part. So people who have the sun in the fourth house are usually kind of homebodies. They really want to create a nest. They also can maybe really connect it to the mother, because the fourth house is has connotations with your home life, your initial upbringing, where you grew up, what you learned in your family, and how to protect. And it also, is what you want to create in your own home. So again, the sign on in those planets, if it's say Scorpio, okay? So that home life might be like people that are really interested in digging deep, so your whole family is going to talk about conspiracy theories or just dig into like supernatural or like spy movies, things like that. So versus, another sign that's more practical and not interested in that stuff. And so, if you have the moon there, then the moon feels that's where you're going to really come to comfort, because wherever the sign the moon is in is where you go for comfort, what comes easy for you. So with this moon in that house, the fourth house, is going to bring about a sense of calm, and it's going to be a refuge for you, things like that. All right, so we're going to move to the fifth house. We're still in the personal half, and now we're in the social personal. So the fifth house corresponds to Leo, and Leo is passionate and creative, and it shines its light. It's fixed fire. I was going to say fixed sun. And interesting, Leo is when the sun is really powerful in the sky. So all of these signs correlate with the way the seasons run in the Western Hemisphere. So, Gemini to Cancer is the solstice, and then Cancer is the sun. And then we go into the full sun, which is Leo. So Leo is fixed fire, and it has to do with creativity, passion, children, everything that is from your creativity. So children are creativity, sexuality, dating, things like that, having fun. So the fifth house people who have planets in the fifth house are really into creating this creative life, having their children, doting on them, love fun surprises, fun activities, sexuality. Now, sexuality is also associated to the eighth house, but this is more of the fun part, the dating part, the having romance, I would say. Because sometimes certain qualities like sexuality can have many meanings along. It doesn't really be owned by a certain area. So the fifth house is kind of like the dating, having fun, creativity. So the planets there in the sun. So if you have sun in your fifth house, you're really passionate about having fun in life. You need to do something that's fun. You need to be creative. You need to let that come out. And if the moon's there, that's your default. It's like, I have to do some creative stuff to feel good about my life. it comforts me. I need to have children. Children are very much a part of me. So again, we're still in that personal place, but we're doing with social. So I'm going to move on to the 6th house. And the 6th house is the last house in the personal planets before we cross the line. And we're still on the social side. So the 6th house is a really kind of a weird house. It covers a lot of interesting things, and it corresponds to Virgo. So Virgo is mutable earth, and Virgo happens right as we kind of have the early harvest. So I think when you think about Virgo, it's about organizing the harvest, bringing things together, sorting, getting ready to put things away, and organizing things and being fastidious about it. So if you have Sun in the 6th house, most of those people are really driven to create structure in their life. And knowing a lot of 6th house people in my personal life, they don't start out that way. They're the ones that are usually really sloppy and disorganized, and then they need to develop that skill to put organization first. And so 6th house really covers your health. It covers your day-to-day routine. It covers basic work stuff. So really it's about organizing your life and serving in that capacity to build. And again, it depends on the planetary signs and other planets. So I would say the person that has, say, the moon in the 6th house, then that stuff is going to be easy for them. It's like, it comforts me to clean, right? You know, those people, I clean when I need to relax, and I'm going to organize things, and it comes easy for them and allowing themselves to do what they know how to do. So oftentimes people who have a lot of planets in the 6th house are kind of workaholics. They want everything to be perfect. They want to take care of things. They want to, really be clear about creating structure. And it's kind of not the structure that you're going to build on, but day-to-day routine. Because sometimes we have structures with goals, and that's kind of more Saturn-like, where we're stepping into the goals. But for Virgo, it's more about keeping things organized, keeping things clean, being able to present things in a certain way so you can go forward in life. So that's the 6th house. So we're halfway through. So now we're going on top now. So we're getting into the social houses, or I should say we're still on the social side, but the community house. That's what I mean. Serving the greater community versus your personal life. And here's the thing, there's no good or bad here. So like, this is good and this is bad. That's a sick game that we need to end, because we all have our purpose and meaning as we develop ourselves and our skills to the greatest potential. So let's go on to the 7th house. So, and here's the other thing, the 7th house has a relationship with the opposite house. So we started with I am, and now we have we are. So the 7th house corresponds to Libra, and that is cardinal air. So Libras are the super social butterflies of the astrology, and just because you have Libras tend to be bubbly, but in the 7th house, you may not have that bubbly Libra personality. Say you're a Scorpio. You may not be bubbly, but you're still going to be engaging with people, because that 7th house is about relationships. It's about the other. So 1st house is I am. 7th house is the other. And traditionally this corresponds to marriage, because that's a partnership, but it corresponds to any partnership that you work with in business, one-on-one, reacting to the other, interacting with them. So people who have that Sun in the 7th house tend to be very social people. They are, learning how to socialize. At the Sun house, they might be shy, but they continuously get put in positions where they need to act out. Maybe not act out, I don't mean to say that. React and respond and create relationships. Now, if the moon is in the 7th house, then that's going to be really easy, because it's like, I naturally feel comfortable with people. It's how I nurture myself. I have to get out and talk to people. I need to share. I have to have that interaction. So it's 7th house. I actually have Jupiter in my 7th house. So that, I have opportunities that come to me when I interact. And it is in Aries. So that is my one fire sign in my chart, and I'm grateful for it. Can help. Sometimes I meet people and I have an instant rapport and I'm friends with them for life. And so that's kind of how it operates for me. Even though I just have that Jupiter planet, I have opportunities, and I have maybe some luck about meeting people and having partnerships. So the 7th house is about partnerships, you and me and that balance. And again, it is in the society house, because usually when we work together, we're working with people in a greater capacity. Okay, so now we're going to go to the 8th house, and the 8th house is a spooky house. 8th house corresponds to Scorpio, which is fixed water. And the Scorpio house is kind of so it corresponds with Taurus, because Taurus is I have, and the Scorpio house is we have. So it talks about common resources and things we all share, which is, of course, sex, death, taxes, mysteries, things that and so you also think of Scorpio, I think of it as like a deep lake. It's so still, it's fixed water. And underneath that lake, who knows what's hidden beneath? Maybe some secret monsters in the water. So people that have planets in the 8th house tend to feel misunderstood, because the 8th house, all this stuff is not recognized by our culture. Secret things, hidden things, the occult, not okay in a lot of people's world. And so those people that have a lot of planets in the 8th house often feel like they have to hide it or hide their interests. If they're interested in some of these things, it's not socially acceptable. They also may have tremendous power, because there's a lot of power in managing resources. So they could work in the banking industry, they could work for foundations, which are managing people's money. So it's like, again, Taurus, you're going to make your own money. In the 8th house, it's what you're receiving. It's a different way. It's, inheritances, how money comes to you, and managing these resources. And it's kind of a little bit spooky. It can feel that way. So if your sun is in the 8th house, it's something that you're very attracted to. It's like either finding that this income that comes in without, we call it a passive income, that's the word, or discovering the secrets, learning to see the secrets and giving yourself permission to explore that. Where if you have moon there, that's easy for you. You're almost one of those psychic people that you just have to give yourself permission to turn within, and you're going to get all those answers. And so it's almost like, yeah, I get it. I've always been this way. So that's what that 8th house is. It's resources and managing people and managing the things that we all share and transform. So the other thing about 8th house, it has a little bit of a Pluto connotation, because Pluto was discovered later in life. So there's a bit of this Plutonian energy as well, but it's very deep and very structured. All right, so now we're going to finish off with that social side, but the community house is the 9th house. And 9th house has been that turning point moving into the midheaven. And the 9th house corresponds with Sagittarius, which is mutable fire. So I think of that as the preacher, the teacher, the people that are sharing. They're passionate, teaching others, caring for others. They love languages. They love the world. They love to travel. It's basically the opposite of Gemini, which is I think. So in the 9th house, it's we think, what we all think, our ideals, our identity, our concepts. And that, if you couldn't tell, is where I have a full stellium. I have a huge stellium in the 9th house in Gemini. I have 4 planets in Gemini. I fill up the whole house. And I have my midheaven also in Gemini. So it's lots of teaching for me and sharing and communicating, but not just communicating, small talk, but big ideas like religion and philosophy and all those things. That's the province of the 9th house. And I'm probably the 9th house queen, because I have both sun and moon and Mercury and Venus all in Gemini. So yeah, I'm a kind of a busy person in that regard. So that is also why I turned to astrology, because once I realized that, I go, that makes sense. Although as a younger person, I didn't see myself as a teacher. I just wasn't there, because I had to grow into it, because that's where that sun, you have to grow into your sun. It's not just given to you. The moon, it's given to you. All right, so now we're going to turn the corner, boom, over to the left side of the chart. And that midheaven is traditionally signifies your career or what sort of service you're doing. So, but with Connie Kaplan's idea, she has a bit more spiritual depth. That midheaven represents your journey home. So that's where your source of God is on that midheaven, because that's kind of truly the energy that you're sharing with the world, because it's easy. It's what you plug in at night. And so it's in Gemini. Yeah, I never get rest. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so let's go into the 10th house. So the 10th house corresponds with Capricorn, and Capricorn is cardinal earth. So it builds, it climbs that mountain top, and it will just to have, you can barely amazing see how they can climb it, because they're such big animals, and they are steadily building. So the 10th house corresponds to your career, how you're sharing the gifts that you're going to give with your community. And it also corresponds with the father's influence, building structure. It has a Saturnian appeal to it, so you have to work to build it. It doesn't really come that way. Obviously, when you're a child, you don't have a career, but you're building to what your gift is to humanity, to share what you have to share. So it really depends on the sign and the planets in that 10th house. So if you have a sun in your 10th house, you are definitely probably going to be very successful in your life once you get over yourself. Once you get over that sun sign and being who you are, that's your gift, and you're going to shine in that career path. So that sun really signifies some career recognition in that time. In fact, that has a lot in that 10th house. So that 10th house, you're going to be identified as a career with the planets that show up there. So for example, my husband has his Mars in the 10th house, and he's a drummer. And so that would make sense, because someone who has Mars in the 10th house is most likely going to use their body. He's going to have a physical approach to what he does for a living. And of course, that is the truth. A drummer, how physical can you be? So that's kind of an example. So if the sun is there, you're going to be building your career, and it might take you some time to accept that's what you're here to do. The moon is there, then that career is going to become really easy. It's like, oof, maybe I inherited it. It's easy. It flows. It flows. It reflects. 10th house it corresponds with Cancer. Remember, we have that relationship. So Cancer is feeling safe at home, and the 10th house is like feeling safe in the world. So you're taking what you have at home and you're sharing it with your community in the world. So it's the other side of things, building it for others, okay? So now we're gonna go to the 11th house, and the 11th house corresponds with Aquarius, which is fixed air, and it also corresponds with Leo. So Leo is affairs of the heart, passion of my people. And then the 11th house is the community, bringing a sense of community for everyone, creating passion and fun and organization for everyone. So people who have their planets in the 11th house are really tuned into the community, and not just the town you live in, but the world community. So astrology is talking about the Aquarian age, which is coming. I've heard about it my whole life, since the Age of Aquarius song, but we are now at the brink of it. Once we get through all this Capricorn energy, we're going to be heading into the Aquarian age. And the Aquarian age is about brotherly love and respect to everybody, and knowing everybody is unique and working together in a way where we all benefit. That's what it's about. So the people that have their sun in that 11th house sometimes feel a little bit weird, because it's not where we're at right now. So, but they are very tuned into the community, and they know in their heart what is coming, and they know where things should be. So I think some people with a lot of planets there feel a little bit frustrated right now, because their gifts are coming later, and their gifts are still serving community. There may be people that are still serving in some level to help others, help the greater community. But their mind is not just for themselves, but for others. So there's a sense of benevolence for those people that have planets in that 11th house. So if your sun is there, you're going to find a way to give, to have a place to give to the community. And if your moon is there, those are those people that probably volunteer for things, and they're in the background, and they just love serving in a very passive, quiet way, and it just comes natural to them.
All right, so we're gonna go to the very last house, which is the 12th house. And so the 12th house is right before we have the rising sign again. And that 12th house signifies with Pisces. So Pisces is mutable water and it moves around. So we're basically moving back to the one, the sense of oneness. And the 12th house is another one of those houses that people really, I think, have it kind of broken a bit because it's from the reflection of our broken earth. But the 12th house is what I call the house of the mystic. It's the house where people are aware of the totality of the spirituality, and it corresponds to Pisces. And remember, the Pisces swims in the sea, it's in the ocean. So the fish doesn't know anything else. It just knows that we're all in this giant sea. So people that have a sun in the 12th house so often feel somewhat diffused. They're not quite sure of themselves because they identify so much with the mystic world. And oftentimes they can be bullied, or they can feel like they don't know who they are yet, but they are here to hold that vibration because we need those mystics to hold the truth about who we are. Now, traditionally, the 12th house was looked at as, it's the house of enemies, or it's what you don't do very well. And again, I don't agree with that. I don't. I think it can be that way if you're not attuned to yourself as a spiritual person, because that's what that 12th house is. It's helping you realize that you are not your body. You are a spiritual being, and we are all in this spiritual sea. We can't see the energy. Sometimes we can, but that's the key, because when we're not validating the spirituality, then that's where depression happens. That's where you shut the door. It's not a healthy thing. So because throughout history, that's been hard. People have been burned at the stake and stuff like that, or they've been kicked out of churches. So this is a tough area. I notice with my astrology, I've talked about the sun and the signs, that the 12th house people and the 8th house people, they get it. They get it because no one is saying things to them. They say bad things, like they have horrible things happen. That is not the truth or the case. So the 12th house people definitely feel the sea of the ocean around them, the cosmic sea, right? That's why I called this channel Cosmic Splendor, because we all are swimming in this cosmic sea, whether you know it or not. So people who have sun there might take a while to get that confidence of being there, because it feels diffused and they can be shy or understated. Now, if you have moon there, that's one of the biggest signs I've seen that people are really psychic, because what moon gives is what's easy for you. So if it's easy for you and you're in the 12th house, those are the natural mediums. I've seen so many people with those placements that are natural mediums or clairvoyants or psychics because it comes easy for them. And then if you have, say, Mars there, then you're usually that person who's going to be researching all the time and learning more about spirituality. Depends on the sign, because you have a hunger to learn about that. That's it. All right, so that's pretty good. And again, I think with the work, I forgot to mention with Pisces, it kind of goes across with the Virgo. You think these are really different, but Virgo manages our physical world, and we're learning to organize that. And then Pisces manages our spiritual world, our spiritual truth, and our spiritual home. So those are the other things that I really like to think about. So those are all the planets. Now, some people have stelliums that are here and there, while other people have, it's kind of splattered. So there's all sorts of chart wheels and ways to do it. So that's the wheels, that's the house positions, and I hope you found that really helpful. And after this video, I'm going to start going in and doing like the moon in all the signs again. So it helps you guys know yourself, because the more you know yourself and what you came here to do, the easier it is for you to align with your truth and what you are here to do. Because you know what? We're all here for something. In fact, we're all here to see what's happening in the next years or so. We came here specifically to see what's happening. And so astrology will give you a place to find your gift, so you can share it with everybody, because we need everybody here. We need all hands on deck to make this shift happen. All right, guys, if you like this content, make sure you subscribe and click on the bell so you get notified of all my content. And I so appreciate the likes, shares, and subscribes. And can you let me know, does this resonate with you? Please make a note in the comments. And if it doesn't, let me know too, because I really want to hear what you have to say. It's interesting doing astrology. I study my own chart a lot, but I love studying others as well. And it's so fascinating to hear what you have to say. And I want to let you know also, I have a free Facebook group. I actually have two. One's called Creative Soul Alignment, and it's a great group of people where we discuss spirituality and the arts. So if you are interested in that, you can go to my group called Creative Soul Alignment. And then I have a new group called YouTube Success Strategies. That's my other brainiac side, where I'm teaching YouTube skills and how to grow your channel and get your channel to get clients to come to you. Because that's what happened to me when I first started. All right, see you next time. Bye.